Let's get it, Drew.
What's up, Jay? Can you hear me, man?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. Sounds good? Good.
Yep.
All right.
They still have to get the parking lots over here. That's why I'm not at the office. So, but thankfully we have Zoom. Thankfully.
Is that the coffee link?
What'd you say?
Good morning.
Good morning, bro. We're about to be dealing with internet issues.
Yeah, it's not gonna be fun. Not gonna be fun.
There's 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms.
Look, they're already out, bro. That's bullshit. They're already lagged out, bro. Oh my God. Javier, I guess you're hosting it today, all right, bud? Javier's hosting Sales Coffee.
All right, bear with us here, guys. This is Wi-Fi this morning. Not the greatest. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Why I gotta mess up on the day Drew's doing it? Come on, man. All right, guys. So since Drew keeps going in and out, I'll just help us run the Sales Coffee today for a virtual team. Hey, I hope you guys are fired up, man. We gotta have some fun today, bro. We got come into the first quarter heavy. Let's get it, man. I'm excited. So hopefully everybody else is excited for the week too, man. Let's get it this week.
Sorry, everybody. Bear with me with this Wi-Fi.
What's the sales coffee going to be about today, Jay? Are you the one taking in charge of it? Come on, bro. Talk about enthusiasm. Let them know what's up.
No, it's Drew's day, man. I'm mad that this is happening on the first time he has to do sales coffee. I wish it would work out a little bit better for us, man.
Good morning, Lita.
Hi there.
What's up?
How are you?
Good, good. Is
Good.
Omar there? We got Javier, Marissa, Matt Jans. Look at Marissa. Good morning. What's up, Matt Jans? How are you, brother?
Good. How are you?
Great, bro. First cup of coffee. I'm feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
Ina, good morning.
Hi.
All right, can you guys hear me? Yep, okay, good. I'll try to connect to this TV one more time. It don't work. No, they're good. There we go. Okay, good. All right. All right, we'll get started. All right, everyone can see me good on here? Everyone can hear me good? We're good? All right, beautiful. So I know a lot of our sales coffee is with motivation and energizing you guys and getting you in the right mindset, okay? Today, I'm not really going to be talking about mindset. We're going to get more into the sales aspect of everything, okay? So the first thing I want you guys to realize is everyone knows sales is a transfer of belief, right? Your belief level is going to equal their belief level, right? You're going to make 3 sales in the home. You're going to sell yourself, you're going to sell the company, and then the product, right? So in order of what they buy, they first buy you, right? That's why rapport is so important, guys. Not talking about things that don't matter, right? You want to ask good rapport questions, right? We want to dig for information, right? But we also want them to buy us at that point, right? Buy our customer service, buy why we're there, right? Then they're going to buy the company, right? Then they're going to buy the product. But it all starts with you and your personality. That's why when we have agents that come in and they're like, well, these person was already seen. That's fine. They weren't seen by you, right? My sales tactics and Geo sales tactics are two different presentations, right? We get to the same aspect of protecting that family, you know, but I'm a little bit different than Geo is. You're a little bit different than I am, right? The great thing about our company and why we go through the presentation is they're going to buy you. They're going to make it unique to you, right? So the more fun you have with this family, you know, the more you entertain them and educate them, the more likely they're going to buy. Okay, that's what it really comes out to, is educating them, right? Because I've met so many people in this business and so many clients that just have no idea what's going on with life insurance. They just don't know. It's not their fault either, right? You got to think about it. Most people, when they look at life insurance, they're just picking numbers from a page. They're picking typically the biggest number for the smallest amount of money, right? And as we know, guys, a lot of the time, that's what? It's term, right? So we're really just re-educating people and then getting them to understand that you're there to help them, right? So one of the big things I want to talk about, guys, is there's 3 things that we should be doing in every single house, okay? So if you're writing them down, list 3 things here, okay? The first thing you want to do, and this is for a sale or no sale, you still want to do these 3 things no matter what. You're going to get a higher chance of helping this family out and protecting them if you're doing these 3 things properly, okay? So the first thing we need to do is identify the need, right? Now, with identifying the need, a lot of it goes into the vocabulary you're using, right? So you got to use words like huge problem, major concern, right? You want to use words like statistically speaking, right? What is recommended?
We can't hear you.
Oh no, Christina, what you did to do to Drew? Where's Drew? Oh God.
All right, sorry guys, once again. All right, so can someone say what the last thing they heard was virtually?
What is recommended?
Okay, good. So didn't lag out too much, right? So want to make sure that we're using those powerful words, you know, major concern, major problem, right? Because what we need to do is we got to identify that need, right? Now, identifying the need typically starts from the first time you talk to them on the phone, right? A lot of people that we talk to on the phone want to know why we're making that phone call. Why are we calling them, right? I'm calling you because your union set these benefits up for you, right? I'm calling you because you filled out a child safety kit, right? Calling you because you filled out for the Will Kit program, right? Now, identifying the need also starts in the first paragraph of the introduction. Why we're there, right? With unions, it's easy. It's an inherent need. Why we're there. We're set up through unions. That's our company. Right? But you can't just assume that they know that. You have to make sure that they understand that we're set up because benefits through work.
We're not hearing you, Drew.
Is that those benefits go away once you what?
Fire, retire, quit.
All right, I just switched to the hotspot on my phone, so hopefully this runs a little bit easier. Can everyone still hear me good? Okay, all right. So what I basically was saying there is identifying the need starts in that first paragraph. Right? Because what happens with your main benefits once you quit, fire, retire, they go away, right? Now, the other big concerns, like a lot of you guys as agents are running will kits or running child safe presentations or running referral presentations, right? You still have to build the need of why we're there, right? With will kits,
Drew, we can't really
final
hear you.
expense protection.
Still.
Okay. Am. Can you hear me better, guys?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. So what last thing we want to like will kit. All right. The reason the phone, right? They're asking like, what's the catch? Why is it free? Well, it's free because first off, no cost. It's free because we don't advertise as a company, right? There's no talking ducks, no discount ducks. We don't do any commercials. We don't have anything out into the community. Handling the will kits as well, right? So you guys, you're lucky. You get access to union-backed benefits without actually being a union. Make sure you guys mention that. That's big. Union-backed benefits without actually having to pay. Is one of the biggest unions, right? It's their national campaign to get as many child safety possible, right? For protecting their exclusive benefits, which include life insurance policies and programs to help your family in that situation. So I want you guys to like never be afraid to mention life insurance in the first paragraph. Like, don't be scared to do that. Don't beat around the bush. Because when it comes down to the end of the presentation, they're like, is this life insurance? They're going to be like, yeah, right? And they're going to react one or two ways to that, good or bad. If you get it out the way up front, at least they know what's going on in the presentation, right? They know when that point's going to come and you're going to talk about life insurance. In every presentation I say, now, the first part of the program, we're going to go all your no-cost over, the additional benefits for you guys. We're going to go into a needs analysis and what it represents for you. And it's going to spit out some life insurance options for you. Now, I don't know if you have life insurance, need life insurance, or looking for life insurance. My job is to explain how all of that works and answer your guys' questions about it. Fair enough? And they're like, yeah, fair. Right? So if you're transparent, that's what a lot of people buy. They buy transparency. So that's one big thing I would tell you guys, especially in the up front, is be transparent with them. Let them know what's going on. Right? It's like if you guys were to build something, right? They gave you all the parts. They didn't tell you how to build it. It's going to take you way longer to build it than if you just have the directions. The difference is transparency. It's clear over here. This needs to be done. Over here, you're by yourself, right? So that's one big thing I would say with, finding the need or identifying the need. Right up front, that's why we're here. We're here because a lot of you union members have the same concerns, right? So another big thing with identifying the needs, asking, right? Now, when you're asking questions, you want to frame the questions to where either number one, the answer to that question, or number two, they can respond positively to it. Does that make sense? You don't want to ask questions to where they say no, right? We want to get a bunch of small little yeses so that at the end, when the big yes is that comfortable for you? They say yes, boom, right into the EHAB and go for it, But it takes a bunch of, you should be in like anywhere from 40 to 50 small little yeses in the presentation before at the end. Get them used to saying the word yes. That makes sense to you guys, right? Yes. You can see why they set that up. So, and I know Gio is a big proponent of this. Get them to go a little deeper. What was that? I didn't hear what you said. Make them speak, right? Make them, if they're just nodding their head, make them speak words, right? Get them comfortable with you. So, and another big thing about the questions, guys, is we want to ask leading questions too. Right? We want to ask questions that are going somewhere. Not questions like, oh, your kid, right? Or like, what you got going on this weekend? Like, that's great to talk about with them. It's great, but we want to figure out like where they spend their money at. That's a better question. What do you guys do for fun? Where do you guys spend your money at? Right? How you guys have a nice family? How long you guys been in this? Right? It goes back to rapport. And why rapport is important and why especially the R in form, FORM, is important, recreation, it's because that's where they spend their money at. Right? If you're gonna find a need, you first got to figure out where their priorities are, where they're spending their money at. Right? So with life insurance, the product that we have, guys, is not tangible. Right? What I mean by that is you can't hold it in your hand. It's a feeling, it's an emotion, right? I mean, you can hold the paperwork in your hand, but at the end of the day, they're not, one member of their family is not here anymore, right? So at that point, it becomes a feeling, an emotion, right? You lost that person. How are you feeling at that point? So in order to effectively help somebody with a product that's untangible, you have to compare it to tangible items. Right? That's why recreation is so important, what they do for fun. All right? I'll give you an example of if you have Joe and Mary and they have 2 kids, and that Joe and Mary every single week on Friday, they go to the movies and watch a movie with their kids. Right? How much does a normal trip to the movies cost? With 2 kids?
$40, $50.
$100. If you get snacks, it's $100.
$100. I knew Amanda would know, right? So about $100 with snacks, tickets, everything, right? So if they spend $100 a week on that, that's $400 a month, already built into their budget. They already know it's there, right? Now, if they're spending $100 a week, they could spend $100 on. That way, if either one of them home, they could still go to the movies every single week, right? So I took something that was tangible and something that they found important, and I compared it to something that is important, right? Their family. Because at the end of the day, guys, the most important, and I know you all asked this in your presentation, what's the most important thing to you? Well, Mary and Joe, I'm going to ask you a very serious question. What would you say is the most important thing to you? They're always going to say their family, or you're going to lead them to say their family. They're not going to say going to the movies every week, right? They might say something corny like that, or my quad out back, or my truck, right? At that point, guys, you can't laugh. You have to make it serious, because it's a serious part in the presentation. But you got to compare things that are tangible. One of the easiest things to compare tangibility-wise is cigarettes. If you know somebody who smokes cigarettes, if your member uses tobacco, how much does a pack of cigarettes cost? 10, 11 bucks, something like that, right? Maybe more. Let's just say it's 10 bucks. Let's just say it's 10 bucks, right? That means there's 20 cigarettes in each pack, something like that, right? I don't smoke. 20 cigarettes. That's 50 cents per cigarette. And if you smoke 4 cigarettes a day, that's $2 a day. You're spending $2 a day to kill yourself. I'm sure they haven't thought about it that way. If you word it that way, and if they just smoke 2 less cigarettes a day, $1 a day, they can afford $1 a day program. If they smoke 4 less cigarettes a day, number one, they're saving their health. And number two, they can protect their family so that if they do die, their family's still good to go. And all you do is put $2 aside every day, right? That's an average sale with American Income. Nothing crazy, right? So, okay, we're good. Okay, now, so that was basically number one, identifying the need, right? The second thing you want to do in every single home is you want to paint the picture. Right, so we identified the need. Now we're going to paint the picture of that need. Now, what I mean by that, guys, is paint the picture of the family without one person being there, without another person, like members being there. Right now, the easiest and most effective way to do this, guys, and everyone does it different, but everyone uses a pie chart. Everyone. This is
We lost you.
I need new Wi-Fi like right now.
Yes, they do, because I really want to hear all of this.
I know.
Can you guys hear me?
Even when he is talking, not really. Even when we can, you're still going out. It says your bandwidth is low.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me better now?
It's in and out. Like we'll hear a couple words, and then you'll go for a sentence, and we'll hear you again. It's pretty bad.
Oh my God, how desperate is Sprint to just like grab the right?
Does anybody have super good like internet service in the room that they could?
Xfinity. I told Josh get an Xfinity router. Like Geo, I think Geo should have his own router for y'all's team. You know, Christina, and then Josh has his own. You know, that would make sense. $50 a month.
All right, is it better now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So what was the last thing you guys heard? The pie chart?
Yeah, that we all have one. We use it differently.
Okay, good. Okay. So, right. I mean, this is actually the area where we're building the need up for them, right? Building the need and painting the picture. So what you guys need to do here, and that's going to make you more effective salespeople, is not selling based on price. Okay? You're selling based on concept. It's so much easier to explain what final expense protection is than telling them they need $30,000 for a funeral. right? Some people like seeing numbers. That's great. Put the numbers up there every time, right? But what you need to do is explain final expense protection. What's going to happen to that family when Joe isn't here? Who's going to set aside $15,000 for his funeral, $30,000 for his funeral, right? Now, the best way to paint the picture with final expense protection, we have the best product for it, guys. We have the freedom of choice certificate. There's no other company that has that. The better you guys are at pitching the freedom of choice and explaining it to them, the more people you're going to sell right off the bat. People love the freedom of choice certificate. Okay. Now, I have experience actually using it. So I know how it works. I know how effective it is. It's super, super, super easy, guys. So I'm sure you all understand the process of what goes on in the freedom of choice, right? What we have to do is be more effective at using that family situation. And I don't want to say against them, but for them, right? So painting the picture. So if I'm sitting with Mary and Joe, I'm going to make sure that we kill off Joe. In most of my examples, I'm going to kill off Joe, right? And I always tell Joe, I'm not picking on you here, right? But Joe, if you didn't come home from work tomorrow, right? And Mary, you know, I would always say, Mary, you know, you're probably going to be Joe's beneficiary, right? Or Joe, who would be your beneficiary? And he would say, Mary. I would expect that, right? Or else you'd be living out in the doghouse, right? So Mary, what's going to happen, Mary, is if Joe doesn't come home from work, you're not going to just walk into the funeral home and you're not going to say, hey, my husband had $50,000 of life insurance. What can I get for a funeral, right? When you walk in there, there's no McDonald's menu board at a funeral home that says cremation's this much, funeral's this much, right? They base it off of what they see. So if you walk in there and waving a certificate that says I got 50,000, what do you think they're going to take? 50 grand probably. That's where most people make a mistake. Most people don't know that. They'll walk in there right with their life insurance policy. And they'll be like, hey, I have my husband has life insurance. Here you go. And all he has to do is take that first piece of paper, look under it and go, oh, 50 grand. Okay. We're going to take this big book of expensive caskets and show you these. And then we'll leave that cheaper one on the bottom floor down there. Right? That's how it goes. I don't want to say that like funeral homes and funeral directors are criminals. They're not. They're doing their job. Right? But people are literally dying to get in there. They have clients. They're not worried about you going somewhere else. Someone's going to come along, right? So the reason why we designed our freedom of choice certificate, guys, is so that that family has all the power, right? They're able to negotiate the price of that funeral. So when I have a member, I tell them, will you walk in there with the certificate? And on the back, it says, there's a blank line where it says amount, right? You're going to put the amount on the back that you negotiated for the funeral. And I said, Mary, you look like a pretty good negotiator, right? Let's say you had 30,000 in force for the funeral and you negotiated one for 15. So you're going to put 15 on the back there. You're going to sign it where it says beneficiary. And then you're going to hand this certificate and the proof of death forms to the funeral director. From that point on, everything is taken care of for you, right? So now I ask them, now guys, when do you think the funeral director wants paid? And they're like, now. I'm like, exactly. He wants it right now. Right? Typically, they don't start the process until we get to check. All right. So the good thing about our company, he starts that process as soon as possible because he has what he needs to make a check, to get the check. All he does is call that 1-800 number at the bottom. He talks directly to our claim department. Our claim department sends out 2 checks. All right. The first check for that 15,000 goes to the funeral director right off the bat. Right. So he's not knocking on their door. Hey, you know, you gave me 10,000 up front, but I need the other 10,000. Where's it at? Right. Guys, if you don't pay the funeral director, legally, they can charge 2%. It's a lot of money. Right.
What was that percentage? What was that percentage, Drew?
Lump sum payment. It's huge. Because we're not just talking about the funeral. Stuff at the funeral home might be 10, 15,000. But everything else after, there's more expenses included in that. You get to pay money to clean up stuff up the house. You got to pay money to get rid of things, right? You got to pay money at a wake or anything like that. That's not free, right? So every little bit is going to help go toward the final expenses. That's why I shy away from funeral. I say final expenses, right? Because some people don't want a funeral. Some people are like, I just want to be, cremated and that's it. That's great. Let's leave the rest of the money to your family to take care of the other final expenses, right? So the next, concern will be income protection, right? Painting the picture with income protection. Once again, so that you basically take somebody out of the equation. Marry your judge with them, right? Because it looks bad. Right? If they're both working, you would say, now I'm sure you got on each other's income. Whoever the primary breadwinner is typically the person you're going to kill off. Did I freeze? All right. But for income protection, it's a simple explanation, guys. 3 to 5 years of their income. You guys think it makes $2,000 a month? It's 25 grand a year. 5 years, $125,000. Right? Just do simple math like that. Now, I know Geo and he teaches you guys to write everything out right here, which is phenomenal. Do it every time. I would recommend that. Right? Especially when you're doing final expense protection, I project back and project forward. Right? I know you guys do that anyway. It's the smartest thing to do. Right? Income protection, you want to project 5 years. So whatever their income is for 5 years. Now, to make it important to them, now I don't know if you guys have watched the videos on the income protection video. That's a great way to sell income protection. They're the heartbeat of the house, right? You guys think about it. Your heartbeat itself. Do you ever think about your heartbeat? No, you just live your life, right? It's up, it's down. Your heartbeat's never constant. It's always up and down. Same with everyone's life. Your life is the same way. You got good days, you got bad days, right? You missed the payment. You made some money. You won a lottery, right? It's up and down, up and down, up and down. The only time it's ever going to stop is if what? Their heartbeat stops. They don't come home from work. That's the only time that your income's going to stop. They figured it out, right? What I usually tell them, I say, now, Mary and Joe, I'm sure there's been a situation where you missed a paycheck. Maybe you got laid off from work for a week, or maybe you got sick and couldn't even go in. I'm sure you missed a paycheck before, right? I'm like, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sure you got by, right? If you figured it out in that situation, you were able to figure it out. Why? Because you knew that the paycheck was coming. The only way you're not going to figure it out, though, is if that paycheck's cut off forever. You're done. Joe doesn't come home. There's no paycheck coming in. Right? This is a good way to protect 5 years of his income. Now, what you have to do with that, too, is show Mary what 5 years is going to look like after Joe's gone. So Joe's gone, Mary, 5 years, that's going to give you enough time to, either make sure the kids have school set up for them, make sure that you can go out and get another job, right? Go back to school yourself and get a better job, right? Or just kind of take some time to get through that process, right? Not everybody gets through a grieving process in a fixed amount of time. Some people take days, some people take years, right? This is a good way to give them a buffer. Give them a little bit of a gap to get things figured out, right? At this point in people's lives, if Joe passed away, yeah, money's a concern, but why don't we give them time to figure out where the money's coming from, right? This is going to give them time. Income protection is effectively going to give your members time to figure it out, right? Because they're going to figure it out. Humans are very, very resilient. Okay, especially with a lot of our members, they're union members, they're hardworking, tough people. They're resilient. They'll figure it out. Like I said, the only way they're not going to figure it out is if when they were relying on someone to help them and that person's gone. Right? So
when we're building that income protection up, we got to build up the members of the house. And I realize sometimes that one person is not working, one person is a homemaker. You got to build them up even more, right? I would never tell you to say, oh, Mary, you're just a homemaker. Okay, you don't matter. No, in fact, matter of fact, Mary matters more than Joe does. Because to be honest with you, if Mary died, Joe has no idea what the things that Mary does at the house. She cooks, she cleans, right? She takes care of the kids, she taxis them, she buys groceries. All of that stuff together. If Joe
couldn't pay somebody to do that.
Exactly, right? So if Joe went to work and then he had to come home and do all that too, he's basically working 2 jobs at that point. One he's not even getting paid for. So what I'm getting at is Mary is a bigger asset than she thinks she is. Get her to see that, right? I'm sure she knows, just bring it to light. She knows all the stuff she does every day. He knows all the stuff she does every day, right? So bringing that to light. She's $100,000. Like they did a study, Penn State did a study like 3 or 4 years ago about what a homemaker would make in a salary if they got paid that way. It's about $100,000 a year for the stuff they do, right? And that's probably just with 2 kids. So you meet some people got 4 or 5 kids. Imagine that, right? I grew up in a family with 5 brothers. Imagine my mom dragging us around the grocery store, right? So you gotta make sure both members of that family are, in this equation. You can't leave one out, okay? Now, with income protection, this is probably one of the easiest ways right here. You're gonna, now, I'm not dumb to the fact that people have life insurance that we already sit down with, right? You see it. Probably 1 out of 3 sits, or 1 out of 2 out of 3 sits, people already have coverage in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through work or an outside company or whatever. And a lot of the times it's term, right? So instead of arguing with them about their term and telling them it's bad, spend it. Spend their term right here. Let's say this family, let's say he had $200,000 through like State Farm or something, right? I'm gonna spend it. Right? I'm gonna say, Joe, you did a great job getting that coverage. Income protection's already taken care of for you. You did a great job. Thumbs up to you, man. Right? So why I do that though, guys, is because you can come back to that. Right? At the end, if they're rebuttaling you like, oh, we already got $200,000 of coverage. Why do I need $50,000 of whole life and $200,000 of accidental? Well, Joe, I like to use the $100 bill theory here, guys. Have you heard the $100 bill theory? No? Okay. So this is a great way.
You're cutting out.
Milk, eggs, and bread.
You're cutting out.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me better now? No.
Yeah.
Everyone's frozen.
I can hear you now.
Okay, you can hear me now? All right. So the $100 bill theory, me and Marvin, we're gonna go to the 7-Eleven down the street. And at 7-Eleven, we're gonna buy milk, eggs, and bread, right? So let's say it's $15. So in my right pocket, I have a $20 bill. My left pocket, I have a $100. Which pocket am I gonna reach into to pay? Right? They're either gonna say 20 or 100. There's only 2 answers there, right? The right answer is a $20 bill. If they say 20, I'm like, you're right. You're right, Stephen. Why would you say 20 though?
Don't want to break 100.
Very good answer. You don't want to break the $100 bill. What happens when you break the $100 bill?
Spend it.
You spend it, right? And it's gone. What do you think is going to happen to this 200,000 when you take out 30,000? Right? Now you're left with 170,000. What do you think is going to happen to that?
Spend it.
Spend it, right? Same with the $100 bill. You break the $100 bill, you're gonna immediately spend it. That's what's gonna happen to their coverage, right? So we gotta explain to them that this $200,000 of coverage that you have, that's to protect the income. Don't dig into that right off the bat. Final expense protection, the freedom of choice certificate, that's gonna take care of your funeral costs up front, so you don't have to worry about breaking into that $200,000. Right? So can you guys see, like, you can spend their money and still tell them you did a great job getting that coverage. I don't ever like poo-poo on them having coverage from another company. And I don't beat up term too bad either, because they have it. It's great that they have it. They got it for a reason. I ask them, why did you get that term policy? What did you want that to cover? Once again, questions, the questions that sell.
What do you say if they pick 100?
If they pick 100, I would say, why would you pick 100? And they'd be like, well, I don't know, because I like having change. Like, why do you like having change? Yeah, not too many people pick 100, to be honest. Most people pick 20,
Right.
because they understand what happens to the 100. You just have to bring it to light to them. They know this stuff. You're just leading them down a little hole so that they get to the right answer, right? So income protection, guys, really, really big. You know, you're going to see a lot of people that have term. Spend that shit. Spend it right here. Okay. And that actually goes the same thing with mortgage protection as well, or rent protection. Spend it. So if they got 200,000 here and their income's only 100,000, spend that there, right? But mortgage protection, guys, the easiest way to build the need there and to find the need there and paint the picture, ask them what their biggest asset is. What's your biggest asset, Mary and Joe? What's the biggest thing you own? They're going to say their house. Unless they rent, they're going to say their house. And I'll say, yeah, exactly. You know, but Mary and Joe, you have a mortgage, right? So you owe the bank. Now, until you pay off your mortgage, who actually owns your house? And they're going to go, the bank. Oh, the bank owns it, right? So if something happens, they're still going to want that payment every single month, right? It's going to be a little bit tougher for you to come up with that payment without Joe's income. Right? It's actually one of the main reasons why people foreclose on homes, because they were fitting it into their budget up here, but if Joe's gone, budget changes. Right? At least if they have mortgage protection or rent protection, they can live in that house for the next 5 to 10 years. They can pay off that house. Right? Now, did you guys see? I didn't use any monetary value there at all. No money. Doesn't matter about the money. Could be any amount. Could be 300,000. Could be 50,000. It's the concept of protecting that mortgage. The concept of that house being there for your family, right? Especially if they've been there for 10 plus years, guys. It's not a house anymore. It's their home. It's where they're building their family at, right? So having mortgage protection is a huge concern for a lot of people. And I'm sure that when you ask the question, what's the most important, a lot of people tell you mortgage, because that they put a lot of money into their house. People paying thousands of dollars every single month to live in a place, especially if you own it and you're making it better. You want to keep it. I can't think of a better gift to leave somebody than a piece of property, a house that's already paid off. It's phenomenal, you know? And then the last one is child education. Oh, that's not C. Or legacy, right? So if they don't have kids, you can do it as a legacy. What do you want to leave your family? You want to leave them a liability or legacy? They're going to say legacy every time. No one's going to tell you they want to leave a liability to their family. They're always going to say legacy, right? What better legacy to leave than leave you $20,000 to go do what you want, have a nice vacation, right? Or use that $20,000 to you know, pay off your debt, right? You also put debt protection in here too. All right, a lot of people are in debt. Happens, you know? So the last one here, kids education, is one of the easier ones to explain to people. That's why I'm not really going to go too in depth with it. You can explain debt in kids education. Those are kind of tangible things. They see their debt. They know they're in debt, right? You don't have to remind them that they're in debt. But the kids education is a big thing. Most people want their kids to go to school. Most people want their kids to be better than they were. right? And to be honest, with these families, their kids are going to be their main concern every time, right? And you guys, I know everyone asks almost the same kind of basic question at the end here, like, Mary, if you passed away tomorrow and you could protect either your final expenses, your income, what would you say is the most important to you? And she said education, right? They're trying to better their family. Most people, if they have kids, they're going to say kids' education because they didn't get a great education when they grew up and they want to better their family, right? But right nowadays for school, anywhere from 20 to 100K a kid to go to school. It's a lot of money. A lot of money, right? Now, I would never say anything bad about college. I graduated college, but to be honest, it's like an adult daycare. Paying a lot of money just to hang out and learn, right? But you got to remember why people want to educate themselves, why people want to educate their kids, right? The main reason is they're bettering themselves. They're paying money to better themselves, right? So even if it's school, even if it's a trade school, if they go to open up a business, leave some money for the kids to do what they want to do, right? So it doesn't have to always be education. They could be going, to trade school. They could be wanting to open up a hair salon or a nail salon or something like that. Their dreams, let them dream, right? So that was basically what I wanted to go over for, mortgage protection, income protection, $100 bill theory went over. Then the last thing we want to do, so we went over the 3 needs so far: identifying the need, painting the picture, and then the third thing you want to do is provide a solution. That's why we're here, guys, to help them with the solution, right? So with the solution, that's the needs analysis, guys. It's built into our presentation already. It's going to show them what they have and what they need, right? Based on their needs, right? The solution is going to pop up in the needs analysis. It's going to recommend coverage for them based on 5.5% of their income, right? It's never going to show anything more. It's going to show about 5.5% of their income, because when you're going over a list of concerns, what's the last concern? Affordability and qualifying, right? We want to make sure that our programs are affordable for all of our members and that they can qualify for it. So what good is showing a member a program that they can't afford? You're basically making fun of them, right? You don't want to do that. You want to be with them. So when you're going over the needs analysis, guys, I would just reiterate everything it says. If it says final expense protection, 30,000, 30,000, read it off to them, reiterate it to them. At that point, you're basically making them sell themselves again, right? And I keep going back to this pie chart because this is, I think, the most important part in the whole presentation, whole closing. All that closing starts right here, right? Getting them to sell themselves on why they need it. You know they need it. Do they know they need it? Right? And it comes back again to priorities. What's important to them? Some people rent. Not important. They don't care. No, some people that they're not relying on their income anymore. They're a single person. No one's relying on their income. Right? Some people don't have kids. But you know what one need everybody does have? They're gonna die. Someone's gonna pay for their funeral. All right. Depending on how well off you are, you might have money set aside for it. Chances are with our demographic, they don't. Chances are the members we're seeing don't have anything set up. All right. And the last thing I really want to hit on, guys, is knowing who you're pitching to, knowing the demographic you're selling to. Okay. And it really kind of breaks down into like kind of 3 categories. Okay. The first category would be single people. Second category would be families. And the third category would be seniors. Okay. Now, there's a different need for every single one of them, and there's a different way you should approach every single one of them. So for singles, the only thing they're worried about is what's in it for them. Why are they doing this? Right? So when you're sitting down with a single person, you want to project them what's going to happen. Show them their cash value. Show them their paid up values. That's what's going to sell them. Not the fact that they have $100,000 of whole life coverage. The fact that this coverage over these years is, number one, going to protect you guys. And number two, it's going to build money for you down the road. Show them their cash value, right? Once you guys get better at the numbers, what you can do is you can take the price of what it costs every month, multiply it by 12, so what it costs for the year, and then multiply it by how many years it's going to take them to get to 65. So if they're 35, multiplied by whatever they pay a year by 30, that's what they're going to pay over the next 30 years. Compare that to the cash value, right? It's typically going to be around the same thing if they're a younger person. Might be a little bit less if they're older, right? But just know your numbers. If someone's 55 years old, don't worry about the cash value. They're not going to have enough time to really build into it, right? So don't show them that like you're putting $85,000 into it, but you're getting $20,000 in cash value. Don't show them that. What you're going to do is you're going to show them the paid up value at that point. Whatever value makes more sense. So you could stop paying at 65, Joe, and still have $80,000 in there for your family, and you really only put about $55,000 into it. So you made about $30,000 for your family over the last 30 years. Not bad, right? Once you get better at knowing the numbers and showing what they pay every single year versus the cash value and the paid up options, you're really going to open some people's eyes. Now, I really don't want you to go into this with every single person, right? But when the situation arises, when you have a single person, we got to stay, they understand what's in it for them. That's all they want to know. Why am I doing this? Right? Because at the end of the day, they might not have anybody relying on their income. They might rent. They might not have any kids. But if they're a single person with kids, they already have a need. Right? We don't really have to, we just have to show them that the need's still there. But if they got nothing, there's a single person, invest in value. Our cash value grows at 4.5%, right? Most savings accounts are at 0.25%. You're lucky if you get 0.25% in your savings account every single year. Our cash value is 20 times a savings account, 20 times, right? And even at the most, if let's say, and this goes in, I don't know if you guys know the rule of 72, right? Saying that your money is going to basically double every 10 years, right? So let's say that this person saves, and then this is like 7%. That you're never going to get 7% in a savings account, right? If you had 7% and you save $10,000, that 7% over the next 10 years is going to grow your money to 20 grand. It took you 10 years and 7%. We're at 20, or we're at 4.5%, right? And it's still protecting their family, right? So using their money to help them down the road, because they're going to put money into it, but don't make it to where they're, don't use the words payment, don't use the words premium, use the words investment, right? We don't want them to think of that as another bill, because it's not a bill, right? It's an investment they're putting toward their family's future, right? Not a bill, it's an investment you're putting towards your family's future, okay? So, let me see what else we got here for you. All right, so that was kind of singles, right? Now families, guys, you're all pretty good at selling families. There's an inherent need, you know, both people are there, they're relying on each other's income, they're building a family. They have needs. Show them the needs, explain them the needs. Paint the picture without one person being there. That'll usually do the trick. All right? Question?
Yeah, I have a question now. So for single people that don't plan on having families, well, how would you feel like, you know, they they don't see themselves having kids or wanting kids in the future or what?
Okay.
How would you paint that picture?
Yes. So Morgan asked about families not, or a single person not really worried about family in the future, not worried about kids, right? What you're going to do is you're going to ask them who their beneficiary would be. Joe, if something were to happen to you, who would take care of your final expenses? Your mom? Okay. So your mom, who raised you and brought you into this world, paid all this money for you so that you can grow up and be a human being. You're gonna put that $30,000 burden on her, right? Something happens to you, who's gonna pay for your funeral, Joe? Right? You gotta do that at that point. There's only one need. You gotta hammer that need home. You know, even if he's like, oh, I could put money aside and I could grow my money faster that way. You could. You gotta stay on it. You can't just put it into account and hope it's gonna grow. Doesn't work like that. You gotta pay people to manage your money, right?
Is a single person like a good time to bring up the tax triangle? How like they can use that as investment, that cash value, pull it out?
Yes.
Free.
Yeah. So Stephen asked, a single person, is it a good time to use the tax triangle? And the answer is yes there. Yes. Now, you have to make sure that you're talking to somebody that knows what you're talking about, if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of people out there that you're going to confuse the shit out of them when you go into that stuff.
Yeah.
Because they're already confused about life insurance. And if you're breaking into something else, you're just going to confuse them more. And I've done this many times in sits, guys, where I just confuse them to the point where I'm like, I lost the sale. I confuse them. They have no idea what I'm talking about. I would always tell you with single people, keep it simple, right? With everybody, keep it simple. But it's not, you're going down the right path there, Stephen, for sure. Just got to make sure it's the right person. If they're a younger person and they're into investments and they're into, building wealth for themselves, yes, go into that. But if they're a young person and that, they're not worried about that right now, you still want to expose the fact that they need to pay for the funeral final expenses, right? So good question.
A lot of firefighters have all those programs that
And then the last thing, guys, I want to go over is seniors, okay? Because a lot of us are sitting down with WillKit members. They're not the youngest spry chickens, right? Sure, you've run into a few of them that are unable to qualify for the benefits, right? WillKits, guys, I'm a fan of them. They're about 50-50, right? So what you have to get good at with WillKits is they have one need, basically, right? Their final expenses. They lived through income protection. No one's relying on their income anymore. They get pensions, mortgage protection. They probably paid off the house or they rent. Not too big of a concern. They want to make the kids' education, debt, things like that. They live through those. They're not worried about that stuff. The one thing that they're worried about, once again, final expense protection, right? So just know when you're talking to seniors that the numbers are never going to be great. You're never going to be like, oh, you get $30,000 for $55 a month. Not going to happen, right? It's going to be a little bit more expensive. So what you have to do is sell the freedom of choice certificate. That's huge at that point. So I went over it. That's like one of the biggest things about our company that sets us apart is the freedom of choice. Get your freedom of choice pitch right. Watch the video on eApp a bunch of times. My presentation for the freedom of choice certificate almost is word for word what they say on the eApp. It's not really any different, right? I'm just explaining it to them as the video plays. So biggest thing with seniors, once again, final expense protection. Singles and seniors are kind of the same, except one's worried about what's in it for them, and then seniors are worried about their family not having to pay that $30,000 for a funeral, right? So the last thing I want to like give you guys information on, and then I'll open up for some questions, is I want you guys to check your belief every day, right? Before you go into the house, before you start your presentations, what I want you to do is go to lifehappens.org. Okay. On lifehappens.org, there are a bunch of stories about people who had life insurance and it affected their family. There's people on it that didn't have life insurance and it affected their family. Watch one of those stories every day before you go out there. Check your belief level, right? If none of you have ever had to worry about making a claim on life insurance or are not at that point in your career yet, this is going to help you build that belief up, right? For me, I don't have to worry about that. Someone in my family died and we used the freedom of choice certificate, right? So I know how this process works. My belief level is already there. I'm there, right? But for people who are new and haven't had to make a death claim yet, or haven't had to go through that process, it's a little bit tough to get into the mindset that they're going to get into, right? But if you can take off your shoes and put their shoes on, you're already winning half the battle. You're in their head. You understand what's going on with them, right? One of the biggest things with selling guys is empathy, empathizing with them, showing them that you know that this is what's going to go on and that you're there for their family. Because at the worst time in their family's life, you're there to help. Like I say this in interviews, guys, and the one big thing that all of our members want more than anything is trust. Can they trust you to protect their family? At the worst point in their family's life, can they trust you to help them out? You literally have these people's families in your hands. Treat it as such. Now, I'm not saying don't have fun with them, be serious as possible. Have fun with your members. Crack some jokes. Get them to like you. But at the same point, you got to let them know that you're there to help, right? Your union set me up with you guys so that I can help you get through this situation. So that if Joe, you don't come home, you know what to do, Mary, right? So that was one last thing I wanted to leave you with. It's about 11:04. I don't really have stuff going on. I can hang out with you guys, ask a couple questions. Anybody got questions for me?
I
I
do.
have a question.
Oh, Matt,
ahead,
you can go
Marissa.
first. Okay.
All right. Marissa goes first. Go ahead, Marissa.
Okay, I'm sorry. So this was an extreme situation, but I met with a union member and he said that like he was extremely offended that we were talking about life insurance. Like he was just saying that I'm Christian, but he was saying like I'm Christian, like we don't, he was definitely foreign. Like I don't know exactly where he was from, but he was just saying like apparently with his family, like they don't believe in life insurance. Like they think it's like profiting off of someone's death. And I like went over and over and again, like it's not about profiting from someone's death. It's about covering your funeral when the time comes. And I asked, like, I even went deep, like, do you guys have 30,000 set aside for your funeral? And he's like, well, no, like we'll deal with it when it comes. So I just had no idea what to say at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that's a few and far between situation for sure.
Yeah.
You want to make sure, like you did the right. You want to maybe paint the. So like Joe, if you died tomorrow, where's Mary going to come up with 15 grand at?
I said that.
She going to have to sell things? Yeah, she going to have to sell things. Is she going to have to put a GoFundMe page up? Like you guys, believe in the church and believe in Christianity. Like, is the church going to help you pay for this? Right? I mean, that situation, there's some people you can't help. Right? That might just be a situation where you can't help that person. You might have done everything you can to let them see the light, and they just might be like, you know what? I don't think I need it. Right? At that point, as long as you ask them 4 times and in 4 different ways that they need this coverage, is that comfortable for you? And they tell you no every time, go ask somebody else. Right? Get out of there. Right? But that's a very unique situation, Marissa, for sure. But yeah, I mean, you did the right thing, getting them to see the need and the fact that they're not going to have 15 grand set up for them. And even if you did have 30 grand in an account, it's probably not for your funeral, right? It's probably because you wanted to like buy a boat when the weather breaks, or pay off the car or do something like that. The only reason people have a lot of money set aside is for other things, not death. They want to have fun with it. They don't set money aside to die, right? You would always, and one little power phrase you could use on maybe next time is people use their savings to live on, and they use their life insurance to die on, right? I'm sure you guys have heard that before. So I mean, it comes down to, I guess, maybe explain the need a little bit more for him. But at that point, I think you've done everything you could there, Marissa. And it was just one of those situations where it's, hey,
Well,
best
I
in the world.
had that one time, it didn't turn into a sale, but, at least I feel like I might have changed their mind a little bit, but, I was like, well, what do you mean like profit off of someone else's dying? Like, when someone died, do you just burn all of their stuff? You know, like they're gonna give their car or their phone or whatever they had off to somebody else. Do you just burn that instead? You know, like
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
And Marissa, you can bring it back to time as well. Because not only is this giving money to your family, it's giving them time as well. Because let's say that they don't have that 15,000. What's gonna happen to that person's body if they can't pay for the funeral? It's just gonna sit there. I don't know if you guys have ever like seen.
Bury you next to a convict.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen like what people look like if they've been sitting around dead for a couple weeks. It's not good. It's not good. They can't make them look like they used to look, right? And to be honest with you, what happens if you don't have money for a funeral? They just toss a bunch of people into the furnace. They burn them all. So you might get ashes from Joe. You might get ashes from Larry, Tommy. Like you might get ashes from everybody. Not going to be your person's ashes. That's how they do it. You know how much it costs to fire up one of them ovens? A lot of money. Ain't cheap. Right. So having maybe you could have went the route with time, Marissa. It's going to save your family time. It takes time to sell assets. It takes time to sell a house, to sell a car. You can't just do it like that. You might be able to sell your computer like that, but to sell a car, to sell everything else, that takes weeks. To liquidate assets from the bank takes weeks, especially when the person that owns the bank account isn't here anymore. You know, making phone calls. It's why in the family information guide, we make them list their life insurance. Because $1 billion goes unclaimed because people don't have it listed. They can't find the paperwork. It takes time, right? I mean, for instance, like I had a person come into the office and tell me they needed to make a claim on life insurance. They couldn't find the paperwork. What if they never came into the office? Their family wouldn't have got that money. They had to do extra steps to find that money. Luckily they did, and they did their due diligence. But if they didn't even know about it, then how are they going to make a claim on it, right? So, very good question, Rick. Very good question. Matt, you got-
Yeah, I'll give you a second. Bad connection. You hear me?
Matt, you ready? Yeah, I
You
got
hear
you.
me? Yeah. I just
Yes.
wanted to ask, like, kind of off the like after the sale, once you've made the sale, I just want to know. I know you train me. What do you like? What's one thing that you say like every time? I know what you say, but what's something that we all should say, you know, after the sale? Because I still do say the same thing, but I struggle a little bit on, you know, not saying thank you. I don't want to say thank you, obviously. Just like I don't know.
So you mean like after the solidification and after the rated risk?
Yeah.
Okay. So after solidification, after rated risk, after I make sure it's comfortable for them, I ask them if they have any other questions. So I say, Mary and Joe, do you have any other questions why you still got me here? And they go, no. I'm like, okay. The last thing I do with every single one of my members is because you guys become part of my family, I get a little selfie. So we're going to take a little selfie. And I don't even give them an option. I just take the picture, right? And then what I tell them is to say, I'm going to save you in my phone because you guys could become part of my family here, right? So I want you to promise me, if anything comes up, cookouts, barbecues, birthdays, anything in the policy, right? Give them a laugh a little bit right there. Anything in the comes up, good.
I've said I've been saying all that. I just didn't know if there's extra stuff that, you know, Drew said or y'all say when you're done with the sale, but, you know, part of my family picture, save the picture, you know.
You're muted, Drew.
All right, can you hear me? See if this mic is on. All right, can you guys hear me again? No. Okay, good. So Stephen asked about maybe a little bit more in depth on I can't afford it, right? So what I usually do when they can't afford it is I go over the cost of doing things, right? Because it costs something to do something and it costs something to do nothing, right? Which cost is most important to them? The cost to do something today is going to protect your family. The cost to do nothing today is going to cost you more down the road when you want to do this or when you need to do this, right? So let's figure out a cost, or let's figure out something that's comfortable for you. What I usually say is, what would be comfortable every single month for you to set aside so that if you knew you didn't come home, you could have at least your main concern taken care of. And I go back to whatever their main concern was. So fitting it into their budget. Like if something happens to you, Joe, tomorrow, what is comfortable to set aside so that you have a protection in place for your family? And to be honest, guys, when I'm closing somebody, I use the needs analysis. I laptop close people. It's the easiest way to do it. I show them what it recommends, and I say, Joe, for income's protected for the next 5 years, and to make sure your kid's education is set up, if something does happen to you, it's going to be about $255 a month, or it's going to be like, basically $150 for you, Joe, and then $100 for you, Mary. Now, is that comfortable right there? We could always adjust that a little bit, right? And if they say it's comfortable, I go right into the e-app and roll. If they say I need to adjust it a little bit, I'm like, okay, great. That's actually what my job's here to do, to help you with that, right? So let me come up with some options and we'll see what we can take care of today. And I go break down A, B, and C to them, right? So I really use the system more than anything else, if that makes sense. I just put everything on what the needs analysis recommends. Right? And I make myself look very smart because when I do this, typically everything that's on here is what the needs analysis recommends. Right? So I hammer it home twice. They know I know what I'm talking about here. And then when the needs analysis pops up, they're like, oh, shit, he knew what he was talking about. I guess I do have those needs. Right? So at that point, I'm not really selling based off money, I'm selling based off of the need, the problem. But price should never really be too big of an issue with most people. It's about where their priorities are. Like that's where it goes back to, where they're spending their money at. Show them that $2 a day, their cup of coffee every day, they don't need it. Might be addicted to it, you might need it, right? Like me, I need coffee every morning. I get angry, right? But that's already built into my budget. Do you know what I mean? Same thing with most people. Their priorities are already built into their budget. So we just got to figure out where their priorities are. Compare it to tangible things. Cell phone bills, car payments, right? Cable bills, all tangible bills that are never ever going to do anything for their family. In fact, they're just going to keep coming in no matter what. If you die tomorrow, they don't care. The cable company's still going to ask for their money, right? Netflix doesn't know you died. They're still going to keep pulling that money out of your account every single month. So where their priorities are is where their wallet's at. So just kind of figure that out, and it'll help a little bit more. All right. Very good question. Very good question. I like that. All right. You got a question? Marvin got one.
What about if you're trying to, like, they know they need it, they just don't see the urgency in making the decision today, and then they think they can just wait,
Yeah, we run into it out a lot. I get that. So urgency, building up why we need to do it today, right? If you have a union member, there's already inherent urgency. This is your enrollment period. They have to wait 18 months to fill that out again. That card comes out about every 18 months. Once they fill it out first time, 18 months later, they get it again. Right? Not depending on unions. Sometimes unions send them out every year. But they're going to have to wait 18 months. What's your health going to look like 18 months down the road? All right? There's 3 times people think about it. All right? Hit them with that. Your health is always consistently changing. The one thing in your life that's going to not be consistent is your health. It's going to be different every day. whether or not you come to a point where you can qualify for it or not, that's only something that you know, right? How you're feeling. And a lot of people don't go to the doctors. They, you know, they're just like, if I go to the doctors, I want to figure out something bad, right? So they don't know their health. You got to bring that into light for them. Tell them stories about what happened. I was just with a 25-year-old who couldn't even qualify for this, right? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, our programs are a little tough to qualify for. We got a little more medical questions than most companies, right? But our product's better, right? So, I mean, hopefully I answered a little bit, but at the same point, it's like, you're going to run into that a little bit, not too much. Hope, did I answer your question?
Yeah, for you, like, what if it was like a referral though? Or like and
I think you're gonna
Drew, you're muted again.
Plus you got,
it just keeps going on and
with
off.
the contingents, like, what other chance are they gonna have?
Yeah,
of getting on?
and when you're with referrals, the one referrals and contingents, that's Matt Brown hit on it perfectly. What you want to do is play on the fact that you're getting union negotiated benefits without having to pay union dues. That's a big thing. Like, not everybody can access our programs. I can't just go to Joe down the street and say, hey, you want life insurance for our company? Sorry, you got to be a union member, right? Now, we know we can do that. They don't know we can't do that. We're exclusive to unions. We're the only company that represents unions, you know? So building up the fact that people pay union dues to access our programs and have to pay and be in a union job, right? That'll help a little bit. Especially with like the child safe and will kits. Like if they were a union member, play on that too. There's a lot of you're gonna meet a lot of people who are in a union or worked in a union that the union we don't represent yet. You know, you're a union member. Okay, great. What union? Right? Go into it with them a little bit. Like you pay union dues that goes to our program. If they don't pay union dues, they get access to it without having to do that because somebody already did. Right? Your brother, he paid his union dues, so he was able to sponsor you into this program. All right? Put it on them. Make sense? Cool. All right. Anybody virtual got a question?
So if somebody has whole life, like 100,000 whole life, would you still spend that whole life on their like income protection? Or
Yeah.
what would you do?
I'd spend their whole life, no matter what. That's a good question. No matter what coverage they have, I spend it. I'll spend it anywhere. If they have 100,000 whole life, I'll spend it on the final expenses, and then I'll spend it on the income. Right? They still have other needs. Right? So yeah, I mean, I would spend all the coverage that they have. But there's some people that do have great whole life policies that are taken care of. At that point, collect referrals and go to the next person. You know, don't beat a dead horse. They're just going to see it as you pestering them. Right? We don't want to come off with that. Right? Yeah, I mean, I always spend coverage, always. You know, that way they can't use it against me. I already have this. No, I spent it already. You don't have it anymore. Right? Very good question, Amanda. Anybody else virtual got questions? No? Anybody here got any more questions? No? Good. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew.
Yes. All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Drew.
Thanks, Drew.